driver's ed. It's a bright sunny day. Hopefully you've had a chance to get out and get some fresh air. Hopefully your studies with your other classes are going well. I do have my headphones on today. I finally figured out this stupid mic. It's been giving me fits for the last 2.5 weeks because it was working and it's not. But now I think I've got it. I can actually hear things now. My mic seems to be picking up the voice just a little bit better. So hopefully you can hear me. I've also been working on the CAM program that I'm using it to teach you, and I'm hoping to stay tucked away in the corner today as we talk about our subject of driving emergencies. And before we get going, remember to sign in through your comments on the YouTube page and to text me. And let me say that I am quite pleased with the test scores that everybody received. There were a few of you that could do just a little bit better, but for the most part, I think I have a good understanding that you're getting the information and you're understanding it. I do want to tell you that I threw a little bit more difficult signs than that you probably see with a state exam, because part of learning is being challenged, and I could give you such an easy test, especially with signs, that I just don't think it's fair. So a lot of you probably, because all my other classes have said, Mr. Toll, I've never seen these signs before, or I really don't know what they mean. But I wanted to put you in a situation where, let me get out of the sound effects here. I wanted to put you in a situation with the midterm where you would have to think very quickly, what do you think the sign is trying to communicate? What is the symbol trying to express to me, and how am I going to interpret that? Because as you drive, there are no paragraphs underneath signs. Okay, you're coming up to a sign very quickly, and you're going to have to process and then drive on. So that's the whole point of the way I geared the sign portion. So don't beat yourself up if you thought you were going to get a better score. Hopefully you took the time to look at the questions afterwards, because I believe that they would have shown you the questions that you got wrong and what the correct answer is. So, that's a good way to learn. I'm going to try to get into that program that I'm using and see if I can spit maybe what you got for a test score and the ones wrong and send it back out to you, but I haven't been able to kind of dig into that program that much. So today's topic is driving emergencies. And the way that we need to approach this subject is we go about our lives thinking that we're going to go from morning till evening and not encounter much for problems, whether it be our car, our computer, work. But the thing is that I want you to focus on today is that driving will create problems for you at some point when you drive. Every day that you drive will be slightly different, just like traffic. Some days it's light, some days it's heavy. Sometimes we have good weather, we have bad weather. But today we're focusing on the equipment of your vehicle. So the first week of class, we spent a lot of times talking about what the equipment does and how it's being communicated to us. So remember, we have gauges and we have lights. So a lot of times when it comes to driving emergencies, we're going to have an indicator that something's not quite right before it really gets bad. So as long as we're paying attention to our instrument panel, okay, and we can understand what the information is giving to us, because I'll tell you a funny story before we get going. I encountered one of my prior students at the mall. We were walking around, my wife and I came up to a student and I said, hey, how's driving going? And he goes, pretty good, but I kind of ruined my mom's car. I go, you ruined your mom's car? Yeah, I was going to school and the oil light came on, and it was like on a Monday or Tuesday, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, so I kept on driving And then eventually I was going to school like on a Friday and made horrible noises, and I kind of ruined the engine. Okay. You've got to understand that when your car is talking to you, you better process, is it an immediate situation that needs your attention, or is it something that you could put off for the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half a day, or the weekend? He thought it was like a weekend thing. Okay. It was more like a minute thing. Okay. When the oil light comes on, okay, you've got a very short period of time to pull over. You shouldn't really be driving for any long period of time. You're going to ruin your engine. So he wasn't understanding what he should or shouldn't do. So the first thing that I want you to write down is think before you act. A lot of times when things come at us, excuse me, that our first response may not necessarily be our best response. So I look at this subject a lot like learning first aid or CPR, is that there is a sequence of steps that you should follow. If you happen to miss a step, it could really change the outcome in a detrimental way. So we want to remember how many steps that we have to make a situation better and to get from the beginning of the problem to the end of the problem with no hiccups, no real situations. So let's kind of go through it. And I don't know if I'm going to stay in this picture box or not, but we'll give it a shot. I did not download Driving Emergencies. So, okay, let's talk about, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. All right, so first emergency that I want you to write down is running off the pavement. When everybody begins to drive, one of the most common problems that we face is our position on the roadway. Most of the time, we're so afraid of cars that are coming towards us, we take a right of center position or far right position. When we do that, depending on the width of the pavement, we run the risk of hitting the edge of the pavement and the car pulling off. Now, in your notes, I want you to write down the greater the depth of the pavement. Okay, so when you go off, if it's 2 inches, that's subtle. But if it's like 4 inches, it's going to be more of abrupt, bringing the right side of your vehicle back onto the roadway. So when you do go off, you've got to know what you have for an edge, because there are some negative things about bringing it on too quickly at the wrong angle. So first thing, don't panic, grip the steering wheel tightly and try to ease up on the gas pedal. You want, now write this down, this is going to be on the final, I'll tell you this right now. The most important thing with any driving emergency is controlling your steering, is trying not to get into a bad situation, not making sure you don't make the situation worse. So whenever something bad happens, think about your position on the road and is it okay? Because if it's not okay, then you're going to have to make some subtle changes with your steering. Then think about the gas or the brake. Do I need to let go of the gas pedal? Do I need to let go of the brake? So ease up on the gas pedal here. Don't step, and it's supposed to be brake pedal here, suddenly or hard. Only step on the brake pedal at a very easy pressure, because you're just trying to bring your speed down. You're not trying to come to a complete heavy stop. Unless, of course, there's a parked car off to the side of the road or something else that's immovable, then it's going to be more of a hit the brakes, really that emergency braking that you're going to have to do. Now pull over to the side of the road, regain your composure, think about what just happened, and then come back on. Most people that go off the edge of the road and then try to come back on, they don't realize that if you don't use your signal and check your rear view mirror, side view mirror, check over your shoulder, that there could be somebody that's behind you that is going to go around you when you're trying to get back onto the pavement. Now this is what I want you to write down. There are two things that could happen, two negative results. One is oversteer. An oversteer means you're turning the wheel probably more than a quarter or a half of a turn, and your car is jumping over the edge of the pavement back onto the road. And what this is going to cause you to do is to cross over the center line. Okay? Now this could cause a head-on collision. So like I said before, just because you have the right side of your car off on the soft shoulder, let go of the accelerator, let the car start to slow down, keep your car 2 wheels on the pavement, 2 wheels off, bring the speed down, and then come back onto the roadway at a much slower speed. Now, the other negative thing is you're going way too fast, and maybe there's a corner involved, a slope of the soft shoulder, and now the car is pulling too much to the right. This is going to force you off the edge of the road into trees, into bushes, and it's just going to be a bad situation. And if you hit something that's immovable, it's going to be a sudden stop of your vehicle. Now, one of the saddest things for me to encounter as a driving instructor is to read the paper and see a name of a former student that's in the paper, knowing that they were taught and trained how to do certain things, but they put themselves in a situation and it didn't turn out right. I have two students that come to mind when I talk about this subject. The first is a person that I had. She was a passenger, her boyfriend was driving, but anyways, it was an oversteer and they crossed the center of the road and they hit an elderly woman head on. So they overcompensated for coming back onto the roadway, shot across the yellow line and hit a car head on. And they had to go to the hospital. I know my student wasn't hurt seriously, but the woman that they did hit, I believe, was very injured. The other case of going off the edge and not coming back on was a dear friend of ours. My family, we had her in driver's ed, and actually her father married my wife and I, and she was going too fast, didn't have her seatbelt on, went off the edge of the road and wasn't able to get back on, and she went right in head on into a tree. And every time that I saw her drive, I always noticed a seatbelt on, so this was quite a surprise. And the sad part was that I was actually with her father when they told him he had to come to the hospital and identify the body. It's something that I'll never forget. And it was 3 days before graduation, so it was just so sad, because it was preventable. It should have never, ever happened. So this carelessness, and just like this subject right here, you may think, okay, this won't happen to me. It doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. But like we talked about speed, if you go by feeling and attitude, you're going to find yourself in situations where you may be doing things that you normally don't do. So running off the pavement is pretty common. Okay, tire blows out. So if you're coming back onto the pavement too quickly, there's always a chance that the tire could blow out. So this is loss of control of the vehicle. And this is what I want you to write down, because it is worse for a front tire to blow out than a back tire. So let me explain. When you have a blowout, it's sudden loss of air from the tire. So you're going from fully inflated to a totally flat tire, probably within 5-10 seconds. So it's quick. It's really quick. You're just losing it. It's worst for your front left tire because it's going to pull you over the center line if you're on a two-way roadway. Now remember, if you're on a multi-lane highway, it's going to be equal right and left. You're going to get pulled to the traffic to the right, or you're going to get pulled into the traffic off to the left on a multi-lane highway. Now it doesn't matter which tire is blown out in the back. It is something that we call a fishtail. So the back end is going to swing out, and then it's going to swing over in the opposite direction. So what I want you to write down in your notes, the faster your speed, the greater the fishtail. All right? So the faster you're going, the more the car is going to swing from side to side. Now, once you start regaining control with your hands, those fishtails should become less and less. Usually, okay, a good driver can handle any type of skid or a fishtail within 3 turns of the wheel. Swings to the right, swings to the left, swings to the right, back in control. Okay, most drivers can do 1, 2, 3, control. Now, just like falling over, okay, I want you to think about this. There becomes a tipping point. So when your back end is sliding out, there comes a degree at a certain speed that you're going, that once your car gets to that certain degree, it's going to spin out. You're going to do like a 360. Okay? There's nothing that you can do. So you're trying to make sure that your car doesn't get to that angle that you lose control of the vehicle. So hold the steering wheel tightly, and I don't like, and I'm not too sure in the new manual if it says straight ahead. But what I want you to write down is stay in your lane. Whenever they say steer straight ahead, don't think linear. Don't think straight ahead as a straight line. What they're trying to say is stay in your lane. Okay, so hold the steering wheel tight, stay in your lane. Take your foot off the accelerator, brake when you have control of the vehicle at a lower speed, and then of course you're going to have to pull over to the side of the road because now you're going to have to change a tire. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Yeah, I didn't download a lot of these when the tire blows out. So this is just going to show a car that is being forced, okay, on a front tire blowout off to the side, and shows a person trying to regain control. And the other thing too is that a lot of people say, well, are we going to practice this when I finally drive with you, Mr. Toll? This is something that we hypothetically talk about in class today, but it's not something that we can actually make you do. I mean, if I had a large paved area like an empty parking lot, we might, be able to, in bad weather like snow or if it rains, we could probably make the car kind of slide out a little bit, but not too much. So you're going to experience a lot of these situations that we're talking about today for the first time when you're all by yourself. And that's the scary part. You're not going to be with your parents anymore. You're not going to be with an instructor where someone's kind of throwing you some, directions your way for you to handle the situation. It's going to be all on you. Okay. And that's the goal of what we want to accomplish here in Driver's Ed, is to make you an independent thinker and an independent driver. So when you do get your license, that you're capable and competent to be able to handle all these situations without really freaking out and making a situation bad, because we don't want a lot of bad drivers out on the road. Okay, common causes of blowouts. And if we were in class, I'd throw this out as a common question. Most people get nails in glass, anything that's sharp. But what I want you to think about, don't hit anything in the road. You don't want to get caught underneath your car. You don't want it to rip your tire. Potholes can cause. The last time in the driver's ed vehicle that we had a blowout was when we hit a pothole. We hit it a little bit too hard. It was very cold temperatures and popped the tire within five seconds. So it does happen. And low tire pressure. So write down in your notes, you should always be checking your tire pressure, because the lower your tire pressure below what's recommended, you run the risk of when you do hit something like a pothole, causing the sidewall of your tire to pull away the seal and causing a blowout. And that's not going to be good. Yeah, a lot of these don't. Now here, let's kind of go through tire pressure here. So here it says you should be checking your tire pressure on a monthly basis. And tires lose roughly 1 pound per square inch of pressure per month, and 1 psi, when it's 10 degrees or colder outside. So once we start dropping 10 degrees, if you're at, let's say, 41, and at 40 degrees, it goes down to 30 degrees, it's going to go down to 40. So every 10 degrees, it goes down 1 psi. Don't rely on your car's tires monitoring system for tire pressure. Use one of those tire gauges that you can get at like AutoZone, Pep Boys. One of the auto dealers would have it too. Know your specs. So look on the side of your door jamb. Look in your owner's manual. What is recommended? It's the easiest thing for you to do is tire pressure. And the reason why people don't check it is because they may not have an air compressor at home, or they don't want to spend the extra money to buy air. My grandparents, and actually the picture behind me, and it's kind of fitting today that we're talking about driving emergencies. And it says auto body shop. That is my grandfather's auto body shop here in Rochester. And I'm going to move to the side. So just right there, right where my thumb is. That's my grandfather. and that's my grandmother. Okay, so I've been in a family dealing with automobiles for a long period of time. And a lot of people think, well, Mr. Toll, you must be a great mechanic. No, um, I know how to drive them, but I can do basic maintenance, but I am not going to be getting under the hood and doing anything too complicated with car's engine, especially with the computer systems that we have. But tire pressure is the number one thing that you should not let get out of hand. You should always be checking that and having a good idea what it is. The other thing too, and we didn't talk about this when we were talking about stopping, although I did show you a video on tires, so I want you to write this down, is that your tires come in different grades. Just like, I know this is strange, I'm a big foodie. Maple syrup, a lot of you probably think maple syrup is sweet. You know, what's the difference of maple syrup? Is there any difference? Yes, there is. It all depends on color, and that tells you about the grade of the maple syrup. Well, the same thing about your tire and how well it's going to perform on the roadway and maybe actually hold up to the wear and tear that you're going to put through it as a driver. It's going to be a code on the side of your tire giving you all that information. So the tire pressure is there too, and that's what made me think of all this information. So the more that you know about purchasing, good tires and how to maintain them, it will make your car perform so much better. So there's a picture of a worn tire. So it was actually driven on way long before it should have been replaced, and it's right down to the steel belts. And this probably was a blowout. I took this at a tire warehouse. I went out back when I was getting my tires replaced, and they said, oh yeah, I've got some tires back here you could take pictures of. So this is a picture of a pretty bad tire. Let me show you another situation. Here's the rubber of your tire coming off the side. I was driving with a student one Saturday, and we came upon this vehicle off the side of the road, and I told the student, pull over, I want to get out my camera on my phone and take a picture. So I took this picture, and then I went off to the side and I took this one because I wanted to show you that when you know that you have a flat tire, yes, you're going to be looking for a safe place to pull over because you're going to have to change a tire, but you do not want to be riding on the rim of your vehicle. That is that metal area around that bright silver rim. And I want you to write this down in your notes. If you ride on a tire that has lost its rubber, you're going to ruin your rim and you're going to have to buy a new tire. So there are two things you're going to be purchasing: a new rim and a new piece of rubber or a new tire. And it does get expensive. Some rims are maybe even more expensive than the actual tire. So rather than having a $150 to $225 per tire replaced, you're going to be paying $500, almost double, okay, to get it replaced. Let's take a look at changing a tire, but before we do that, I want to show you this. Now I'm going to see if this works. Let's see if I can get out of this.
Drifting onto the gravel shoulder of a highway can lead to a serious collision.
The uneven traction could cause you to lose control of your vehicle and send you into the ditch.
In this situation, don't make any quick movements. Making a quick change or abruptly moving back onto the pavement could send your vehicle into the path of oncoming traffic.
A head-on collision could occur because of overcorrecting. You should grip the steering wheel firmly and slowly ease off the gas, but do not brake. When you feel you have control of the vehicle, check your mirrors, signal, and ease back onto the highway when safe.
If the drop-off to the shoulder is steeper than usual, slow down even more and steer back onto the pavement at an even sharper angle.
Okay, guess what? I forgot that I had this downloaded and I clicked on the wrong video to show you. So let's just kind of go back to where we were at the beginning of today's lesson. You can see behind her that's pretty level surface. So running off the pavement here isn't going to be the worst thing in the world, and you should be able to control it. But I apologize that I did not show it when we were discussing it. So now let's take a look at the one that I was going to show you. And this is kind of a humorous look at changing a tire. So hopefully this brings a smile to your face today. Okay, it's kind of unrealistic, but I thought that was, you got to be careful when you're changing a tire. You just So here's a guy that definitely goes to the school. So let's see what. And by the way, beneficial. You don't want anybody getting. Okay, his problem. You kind of have to keep one eye on traffic when you're working around a vehicle. Here's our laps. Show them. By the way, these are all European tire commercials. That's why they spec with their tire. Never get underneath the vehicle. Jacking it up. Every year, hundreds of people are injured. Hundreds are injured every year when they work. It doesn't have to necessarily be changing a tire, but it could be just working around the vehicle. Is that they're not aware of how close they're getting to that white edge line. And think about it. When you bend down and you get on your knees, what's happening to the back of your legs? They're going out behind you, about 18 inches, to 2 feet, depending how tall you are. So if someone doesn't have a good position on the roadway, it'd be very easy for someone to run over your legs. Now let's see if I can get back to where we were. There we go. So let's go through the steps of changing a tire. First one is look for a safe place to pull over. So let's kind of go through some of the places that we would pull over. If you're on a highway and you're still going to be going for a long distance, pull as far as you can off to the right. Never, ever, if you're in the middle lane or left lane, choose to go left and go over to the left side of the road. You should always, even if it means driving on a tire that's blown out and on a rim for a little bit. Always tell people it's better to be safe. It's better to lose a rim than to lose a limb. Does that make sense? It's better to lose a rim than to lose a rim. So look for a safe place to pull over. Now, if we're in town, we're looking at parking lots, gas stations. If you're on a rural road, I'm sure if you pulled into somebody's driveway, they would be understanding of what you're doing. They may even come out and help you. Get everyone out of the vehicle, okay? I don't know if I can get back in here. I thought I could get my picture back in here. Let's see if I could do this one. Oh, there I am. Okay, I'm back. Okay, this is what I want you to think about, is that when you pull over to the side of the road, think about what's in front of your car, beside your car, and behind your car. Okay, you got three. You're getting everybody out. Should they go to the front of your vehicle, right next to you, or should they go behind you? Okay, so in your notes, when you get people out of your vehicle, everybody goes behind. Nobody stays inside a vehicle. I don't care if it's raining or it's freezing. Anytime that you're trying to get your car up on a jack, you can't have people, even like what I'm doing right now, just moving in my chair, is going to make your car rock a little bit. So make sure everybody gets out. Now the question is, why not to the front? Why can't I let them go to the side of my vehicle? Okay, reason being is that if your car gets hit from behind, all the glass and the debris is going to go to the side or go to the front of the car. So the safest place is to get people behind you and have them wave their hands, tell people to slow down, especially if it's just around a corner or over a hill. Because if you don't have cones, if you don't have reflectors, your passengers are going to be your best course to make it a safer situation for you as you change your tire. Okay. Set the parking brake, trig the wheel, which means put things in the front and the back of the wheel that's opposite the one you're changing. So if you're changing the back right tire, you're putting things in the front left tire, in the front and the back, okay, to make it safer. Pry off the wheel cover and loosen the lug nuts. Now, this is the easiest way to remember this. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, okay? Do all your heavy work when the car's on the ground. Don't have the car lifted up and pulling on the lug wrench when it's teetering on the jack. And I'm going to show you a video in just a section in a second. Okay, place the jack on firm ground. Jack up the vehicle 2 or 3 inches off the ground, about 2 or 3 inches more than what the new tire is going to need, because you don't want to be dragging the new tire at an angle to get it back on. Okay. Remove the lug nuts and put them in your pocket, because that's going to be safekeeping. And in cold weather, it's going to keep them nice and warm. Lift off the tire and replace it with a spare. Now, there are 2 types of spares. One would be a regular full-size tire, okay? And then you could drive as much as you want on that tire. But remember, you now have a tire that's flat in your trunk, okay? You're taking off the bad tire and putting in the trunk. You're not leaving it off to the side of the road. That would be littering, would be one. The other thing is people could go off the edge of the road and hit it, and you don't want to make things worse for other people on the road. Once you put the spare on, the donut tire, you want to get replaced relatively soon, because it's not so much that it's not safe driving on it, because you could go a couple 100 miles with it, but it's so much narrower than what you have for a regular full-size tire. So there's not going to be the same feel to your driving or the same type of traction on the roadway. So when you start losing control, it's going to probably be more where that donut tire is than where the other 3 tires are in contact in the road, especially in bad weather. So screw on the lug nuts, and remember to go in a star pattern. So if you've got 5 holes, you want to always skip a hole. Never go side by side, either clockwise or counterclockwise. So put it in one of the holes, and then skip one of the holes off to the side, then put another one in, then skip another hole, put it over there, and just kind of make a star pattern. That's going to put the tire on squarely, and that's going to be better for you when you put it down on the ground and tighten it up the rest of the way. Let's see if I can get the other video, changing a tire.
Make sure your vehicle is parked in a safe location. A low-traffic parking lot or large paved pullout well off any busy street or road is ideal. Set the emergency brake first. If you have a manual transmission, put your car in first gear. If your vehicle is an automatic, just put it in park. Next, place wheel chocks or big rocks behind and in front of the tire opposite the one being changed. This will prevent vehicle movement and the jack from slipping while we work. Next, find your lug wrench, jack, and spare tire. These tools are often located in the trunk under the carpeting. Your vehicle's manual will indicate exactly where they are. This only applies if your vehicle has a hubcap. Many hubcaps just snap into place, but some are held on by the lug nuts. You can usually pry them off using something flat like a screwdriver. If your vehicle has covers over the lug nuts, be sure to remove them as well. Loosen the first lug nut by rotating the wrench counterclockwise just once without removing the lug nut entirely. Then, loosen the second nut directly opposite of the first one, and then the one opposite that, like a star-shaped pattern. If the lug nuts are tight, use your body weight to push down. Look in your owner's manual for where to position the jack. It's often under the frame near the tire with the flat, but not always the case. Our jack should be aligned with a thin seam line that runs under the vehicle. The factory jack has a notch cut out of it for a specific fit. Next, insert the handle and turn it clockwise to raise the car. Lower the jack if at any point your car seems unstable, and never ever get under a car that is only supported by a jack. Now, fully remove the lug nuts and place them in a secure location. Grasp the tire with two hands and pull it straight out. Then place it under the car. This is a precautionary measure just in case the jack slips. Remove any aftermarket accessories like hub rings at this point. The valve stem on the spare tire should be facing out. Then align it with the wheel studs and push it into the assembly. Tighten one lug nut by hand. Follow the same star pattern used to remove the lug nuts. Remove the flat tire from underneath the vehicle. Turn the jack handle counterclockwise and lower the vehicle. Once the vehicle is firmly grounded, fully tighten the lug nuts using your wrench, again in the star-shaped pattern. Remember to gather your tools back in place. Remove the wheel chucks and place your flat tire in the trunk. Lug nuts and lug bolts should be torqued to factory specs. You can also reach out to a local discount tire for proper torque recommendations for your vehicle. Finally, remember that spare tires are smaller and less capable than regular tires. They should only be used for limited short-distance driving. Visit your nearest discount tire.
Okay, how about now? Now, hopefully you can hear me now. Okay, I think you should be able to hear me now. So what I was trying to say is AAA is a good thing to have in case you run out of gas, need a jump, need to change a tire. If you don't feel comfortable with doing stuff like this, then AAA will come out and service you. So it's probably around 40, 50 bucks for a junior member, maybe a little bit more for your parents, but being added on to something like this is, I think, well worth it. Skidding, we're going to talk about this tomorrow too a little bit, but basically we know that our tires are not gripping the road. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about snow and sleet and rain, but it could be dirt. It could be a blowout, like we said before, but stay off the brake. We're thinking about steering, and to get control, you're always turning in the direction you want your car to go. And then, like I said before, there's always going to be a counter steer, 3 counter steers. So always be ready to steer in the opposite direction for those 3 fishtails that you're going to get. And when you feel you've got control, then you're going to go to the brake. All right. And thanks, Dan, for letting me know that my sound was off. I had it muted when the video was on. Flooded engine, we're not going to go over. Most cars now have fuel injectors. If you have an antique vehicle that's like 25 years old, you may have to go where you're pushing down on the gas pedal before you start the car. But nowadays, it's just take the key, turn it all the way to the right. Once you hear the car turn over, you're going to let go of the turning of the wheel, the key, and the car is already started up. So basically, you don't have to worry about flooded engines. I kind of put that in. Wet brakes. This is more for older cars that have a problem. That have worn brakes or worn brake pads. They go through water, and when they go to use their brakes, the brakes don't feel quite right. They're going to make some noises. They're going to feel a little spongy. So what you want to do is what they call dry your brakes, which means you're accelerating with your right foot and you're braking with your left. And by doing that, you're creating friction or heat, which is going to cause that moisture to dissipate, to leave the brake rotor. And I don't have these clips here. Shift to a lower gear if you don't have brakes. That would hit the your regular brake in a pumping method. And when you hit your brakes and you're pumping them, it's almost like an aerosol can where you're trying on your first pump on an aerosol, you may not get anything out of it. So you may have to pump a couple times, like ketchup at Wendy's. You know, you're pushing down a couple times before you get anything. The same thing with brakes. The brake fluid may have a bubble in the line, so you're trying to push that air pocket through. Parking brakes are okay for slowing the car down, but you cannot stop a car with your parking brakes. It does make you go slower, but remember, if you do use the parking brake, you got to hold the release because it is going to lock up your back tires and probably put you into a skid. I like shifting to a lower gear, okay? And I always put my car in neutral because even when you put your car in neutral, there's gas going to the engine, but when you have your car in gear, the car still wants to go forward. And we're going to talk about a stuck gas pedal, same thing. You want to take your engine away from the bad situation. So whether it be brakes or a stuck gas pedal, put it in neutral and then go through some of these steps. Honk your horn. Flash your lights, especially in the evening. Warn people that you have a situation. Pull over to the side of the road with a signal and call for help. This isn't something that you're going to be able to fix on your own. This is where you're going to need to be towed. Okay, you should not be driving away from stopping a car that has bad brakes. Direct collision course, you're having a bad time with your vehicle. You don't want to hit anybody head on, so try to hit the brakes as hard as you possibly can. That's going to lessen the impact if you are going to get hit. So if you're going 40 miles per hour and they're going 40, if you both can cut it in half, 20/20, that's like hitting something at 40 miles per hour rather than hitting them at 40 and they're going 40, that's like at 80. So you're bringing the impact down by 50%. Turn off quickly. Look for the shoulder. Never go left. And I shouldn't really say never because Andy Pilgrim in the first video that we saw the first day of class or second day of class indicated that sometimes you may have to do something that is kind of unconventional. So sometimes if someone is texting or a drunk driver and they're coming into your lane, maybe going off to the left is going to get you out of trouble. It's not going off to the right and going to where they're going at you. So you may have to think that out really quick. Side swiping things is always a good thing, but the other thing I want you to write down in your notes is anything that you hit, you're going to have to pay for. Think about that. Everybody has to get compensation for damages. So if you're losing your brakes and you're hitting a parked car or another car head on, you're responsible for that. That's coming out of your pocket, not theirs. So anything that you need to hit to slow yourself down, think about, I'm going to have to pay for this. I'm going to have to make this right with this person. So think about what you're hitting. Put a dollar sign on what you see up ahead. Hit the Volkswagen, don't hit the Mercedes. Try never to get hit on both sides. Surprisingly enough, this individual was sandwiched between two semi-tractor trailer trucks on a highway. And he is alive, which is odd. because his car is just encased around him. But he is looking at us. And sometimes when it comes to crashes, we are just plain lucky. And I think he is lucky. If your vehicle overheats, this could be you have a leak in your radiator, in your hose. Your temperature gauge on your car is going to be indicating that your car is running hot. So pull over to the side of the road, turn off your engine, raise the hood, but don't loosen the radiator cap because it's under pressure. So when you loosen that radiator cap, steam is going to come out. It's going to be released. So think of a can of Coke, a bottle of Coke, and you're shaking it. You know it's under pressure. Your radiator is the same way. So the minute you loosen that cap, all that steam and that fluid is going to be just burning the underside of your forearm, and it is going to hurt. So let the cooling system cool down. Never open up the cap and put lukewarm or cool water, because anything that's hitting metal that's warm, you're going to crack metal. Okay, it's not going to be a good situation. So think this out. This is maybe where you're going to be calling AAA rather than trying to deal with the situation. It doesn't happen that often, but a vehicle plunging in water isn't so much leaving the road and going into like a stream or a river or going over a bridge and breaking through a guardrail or a fence. Most cars that are in water, it's because it's a flood situation and they're trying to go through a valley and they're actually driving into it. And then the other case, being in New England, is that surprisingly people will drive their vehicle on ice. So there have been cases where people have actually had their vehicle fall through the ice and now they're totally submerged, and how do you get out? So just remember that your car will float for a little bit of time. It will always go nose first because that's where the engine is. That's where all your weight is. Crack a window as soon as possible because it's going to be under pressure. Go to the back of the vehicle where there's going to be an air pocket. Think about how you're going to get out. You may have to crack a window. Now remember, you can never crack your front window. There is a protective film on the inside and the outside of your front window that is going to prevent you from making a hole big enough to leave. So you're going to be cracking the back window or a side window. And a lot of times they will sell in a toolkit, and you may want to keep this in your glove compartment or somewhere near the front seat, that if you strike your window pretty much in the center, it is going to crack that window and release all the pressure, and the water is going to come in. Now remember, if you still got an air pocket, you better think about what you're doing when you crack that window and which way you're going to be swimming to get out. And remember that air bubbles, think about this, air bubbles always go up. So if you're leaving the roadway and your car flips and goes into water, you may not know if you're upside down or sitting upright in your seat. So best way to do it is kind of blow some bubbles and see which way the bubbles are going. That's telling you that's the surface. So take a couple breaths, or break the window as soon as you can, and then go out. Swim to the top. Okay, here's a car that went off a bridge. Okay, he's not totally submerged in water, but he's in the water. So something like that could happen. Actually, I do know Sarah Edgley. So she passed away in 2015 at the age of 34. I knew her mom. We went to the same church. Sarah was a twin. Her twin brother was in the back of a Bronco. What happened is that her dad was on ice. They were ice fishing, and they got near the edge, and the Bronco went through the ice. Her brother was able to get out. She was not. And in the article, if you look down to the third paragraph, that she was in that freezing water. Now, I don't know whether it was submerged or not, but I know that she was underwater for a while. But here it says 40 minutes. Sarah could not talk. She could not walk. She could only communicate by using her fingers and going to what we call an alphabet board and spelling out what she wanted to say. And this happened when she was quite young. She says she's 11 years old. So basically for 23 years, she was in that state. And her dad never really recovered from what happened to her, and he was never the same. But good family. Just a bad thing that happened. Total by accident. It wasn't an error on his part, but he took it personally. Headlight failure, try to use your turn signal. So what we're doing here is just trying to get enough light to get us off to the edge of the road. Now, when they talk about a dimmer switch, they're talking about your high-low beam light. So go back and forth with that till you get some additional headlight usage to get you to where you can pull over to the side of the road. Now, I always like carrying an extra pair of bulbs, whether it be turn signals or headlights, in my car, just in case, because you know what happens? I always have a problem with a headlight going out or a tail light going out, and it's at night, and I can't get to an AutoZone or a Pep Boys to get it replaced. It's going to be a day, maybe 2 days before I'm able to do the headlight thing. So I said, I'm going to keep a spare in my car, and that really does help out. Stuck gas pedal, keep your eyes on the road. Never reach down and lose sight of the road. Shift to neutral, go to your brake pedal, and try to stop the car as quickly as you possibly can. Now, the key here is shift to neutral, keep your eyes on the road. So I think I do have something here on stuck gas pedals.
Although it is a rare occurrence, your Toyota may experience a sticky accelerator pedal. You should pay attention to the operation of your accelerator pedal. If the accelerator is harder to depress than normal or slower to return, it may be a precursor to a stuck pedal. These vehicles should be parked and a dealer immediately notified. Okay, what should you do if your accelerator pedal sticks? Although it is a rare occurrence, we thought you should know what steps you should take in the unlikely event that it did occur. If your pedal sticks and won't return to its original position when you take your foot off of it, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Don't pump the brake pedal as it will deplete the effectiveness of the brakes. Then simply shift into neutral, that's N for neutral. And firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road. If your Toyota's transmission has a notched shift gate and you're driving in sport mode, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Simply nudge the shifter to the right into drive, D. Then forward into neutral, N. And firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road in a safe area and shut off the engine. Drivers who cannot put the vehicle into neutral should turn the engine off. This will not cause a loss of steering or braking control, but the power assist to these systems will be lost. If the vehicle has an engine start-stop button, firmly push the button down for at least 3 seconds to turn off the engine. Do not tap the start-stop button. If the vehicle has a conventional key ignition, turn the key to the accessory position, or ACC, to turn off the engine. But do not remove the key from the ignition, as this will lock the steering wheel. If you experience any issues with your accelerator pedal, please contact your dealer without delay. If you are not experiencing any issues with your pedal, Toyota is confident that your vehicle is safe to drive. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully people can hear me now. I'm going to keep an eye on the microphone, because when I'm switching between these two programs, it seems like the mic is not switching back over. So I'm going to have to kind of tweak things. So I appreciate the heads up from you guys today about the problem with the audio. I got my headphones now, but now I'm having problems with the mic. It's always something. Okay, power steering failure, grip the steering wheel firmly. It's going to be difficult. You still can drive a car without power steering. I mean, back many years ago, probably 40 years ago, power steering was an added feature on a vehicle. Rack and pinion steering was very common, so at lower speeds you really would have to grip and turn the wheel very, very tight. It was had more effort going into steering. So stop the vehicle and maybe turn it off. A lot of times our mechanical problems are all computer related. So if there's a situation where the car's not acting right, just like your computer, think about restarting your computer or restarting your car, letting the computer kind of, talk to itself and get back to factory specs, and then maybe a lot of these problems won't persist. So think about that when you have some of these situations that we're talking about today. The hood flies up. Now, why would this happen? The only reason why this would happen is that every car has a safety latch that you have to, once you pop your hood, it just does it. You can't just lift it up. You have to go and move a lever to the right or to the left to pull up on it, and underneath the middle portion of your hood, that's going to allow you to lift the hood the rest of the way. So what has happened is someone has maybe checked their oil or put oil in their vehicle, and they didn't push the hood all the way down, so there's a little bit of a gap, and the safety latch hasn't hooked. So they're driving down the road, and all of a sudden the hood's going to fly up. So what you've got to do, it's going to take you by surprise. It's going to crack your windshield, but depending on the road that you're on, and if there's no place to pull over right off, you're going to have to kind of sink down in your seat a little bit and kind of look through the dashboard of where the hood is. Let me show you what it would look like. Okay, notice that the hood came up and he basically kept the car going straight. It looks like he stopped right on the highway, but when he was trying to push down on the hood, it wouldn't close all the way. So he's going to have to pull off to the side of the road and get help. And that's what I was talking about. There is a little bit of a gap. So he will be able to drive at a lower speed, but something wasn't right when he was driving earlier that day where he didn't push it all the way down. Stopping on railroad tracks, we already saw the railroad video that I gave you from last week. Just remember to go off at a 45-degree angle. So if you're getting out of your vehicle that's stalled on railroad tracks, remember, get out of the car if you can't move it, especially if you know a train is coming, and then always run away at a 45-degree angle. Okay, that's going to be the safest thing to do. Windshield wiper failure. If the wipers fail, it could be a fuse. So look at your fuse box. When we looked at our vehicle owner's manual, we took a look at that. I like carrying an extra pair of blades in my car. So if it's not the motor, so there is a difference. Remember, a motor is what's making the arm go up and down. So it could be a fuse, or you just may need a new motor. Most of the time it's a fuse. But if you're getting if the wipers are blurring your vision, you don't have a clean edge of that rubber of the wiper cleaning the windshield, then you need a new wiper blade. And just like the headlights, like I said, it's probably best to carry an extra pair in your car. That way you'll be able to replace it right off. It's very easy to do. Remember to clean off snow and ice from a blade in the winter, because it is going to smudge the windshield. It's going to make it blurry. Never try to reach out a window and snap the blade, because there's going to always be a chance that it's going to snap right off in your hand. So pull over to the side of the road if you're getting some ice and snow on the blade, and take it off. Don't just keep on driving. Okay, disabled vehicle, I do want you to write this down. I do want you to know that number, 200 feet. Your car should always be seen for a distance of 200 feet. That's going to give cars enough time and distance to move around you. So never park on a hill or a curve, because people need time as they come over a hill or around a corner to deal with you. Parking lights is what we want, but if your car can't move and you want people to stop for you, we talked about the difference between emergency lights and parking lights. Raise your hood. Now, this is what I want you to write down. A white cloth is universal, meaning that you have no electrical power. So when you see a car with a white flag attached to the side, it means that the car can't move. It has no electrical power. Now, in the wintertime, because of snow, a white is not going to stand out for people, so they use a red colored flag for winter to warn people that you need help and your car can't move. Stay in your vehicle till help's arrive. Now, I want to just take a moment here and talk about a few things, because you are a young person. Some of you are female. Be very careful about asking for people to help you. There are a lot of dishonest or a lot of creepy people out driving around. So this is what I want you to write down. This is not in a manual. This is not in a textbook. But this is something that I picked up at a conference, and it really made so much sense to me. And I have 2 daughters and a son. Both my girls are married right now. But this is something that I would always tell my kids, is that when someone pulls over, so I want you to write this down. If you're broken down and someone pulls over, you should always take a picture of the license plate of the car that is just pulled over. And now that phones are kind of big and they kind of stick out, I'm going to see if I can get me on the thing here. Let's see if I can change here. Here we go. All right. Here's my phone. Okay. I don't have a pocket right now, but see how my phone is sticking up? I would turn my phone on to video. I'd have it like this in my pocket. And when someone came to my window and was talking to me, or I was outside of my car changing my tire, I'd videotape everything that was happening. You're giving. Now, my phone is attached to a cloud, so all my storage goes. And I know my wife can access my iCloud. You're giving, if anything ever happened, you're giving a first-hand account of what actually went down. I can't tell you how many times I've seen on a newscast or I've read in the paper where someone has been shot, killed, abducted. I mean, there are terrible things that are happening to people that are just trying to work on their car. So be smart, okay? Do that. I'm going to keep me on the screen here because we've just got a few more slides to go before we're done for the day. Call your parents. Leave a text to your parents. I broke down. This is where I'm located. Now with GPS on your phones, they should be able to locate you pretty quick. Flares, reflectors, 200 feet. Like we said before, hills and curves. You want to give people fair warning so they can go around you. I'm hitting the wrong button. Jump starting a car. I actually made another video. I did this 2 weeks ago, actually probably 3 weeks ago. It was with my other class. I didn't want to use this video anymore, so I made my own. So let's see if this works. And there's not a lot of, I don't do a voiceover for it, so I just put the key points of what to remember. So this is what I want you to write down before I show my video, is look at the owner's manual and follow the steps. That's the easiest thing to do, okay? And the other thing I want you to write down is that when you're jumping a car that is dead and you have jumper cables, I just want you to remember that you're going to have 2 sides to the cable, red and black. Red is positive, black is negative. So when you're attaching the cable to the battery, it's red positive, black negative. And also the sequence that you do is really important, and we're going to see that in the video. So let me see if I can get that. this. Okay, now you can hear me. Yeah, this button is kind of quirky. Um, let the vehicles kind of stay connected for about 10 minutes. I forgot to mention that. And the other thing too is that on a bad battery, and this actually did happen, my truck did need to get a jump. I don't know if my son left the headlights on overnight or whatever, but it's original battery. We need to replace the battery. What I'm trying to say is that just because you jump a car and you get a little bit of juice for the battery, once that juice is depleted, it's not going to regenerate, and you're going to need a new battery. So a couple days later, I had to go out and buy a new battery. So it's good to know how to jump a car, but also realize that it may happen again later that day. So what I would recommend is going to AutoZone or Pep Boys, like I said before. They can hook up your vehicle and let you know whether your battery is holding a charge. And like I said, I'm not trying to make you a mechanic or anything. It could be something else. It could be also your alternator is not working correctly. You're just running off battery power. So once the battery power is gone, you don't have any more battery power. So take things in order about how to deal with it. So jump in the car is the first thing in order. Now, if that doesn't work later in the day, then you know it's more than just jumping it. So this is why I like AAA, and this is also where you want to be able to know where your closest automotive store is so they can help you out too. Vehicle on fire, it doesn't usually happen that often. It's usually a short circuit electrical system. Wires cross, get a little bit warm, and create some heat, and before you know it, you got a fire. So be careful with that. Get everybody out of the vehicle. Forget about trying to put it out. I should even take out the blanket fire extinguisher, because at that point your car is probably toast. You're going to get insurance money. They're going to have to replace your car. Just get out, get away. That's the best thing. And that is basically it for today. We're out. Let me get back to where I was. Let's see if this works. Okay, now you still can hear me. All right. Okay, so that takes care of driving emergencies today. What I want you to focus on for tomorrow, looking at the sheet, hazardous conditions. So we're going to be talking about bad weather. So that's chapter 13. In the textbook, do the chapter questions like you've been doing, and also read section 3 in the manual. The manual doesn't really get into it that much. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about sleet, snow, ice, nighttime driving, driving in the rain, fatigue driving. So we got a lot of things to go over. Just to give you an update, I got an email from the state saying that we're waiting for the governor
to lift the ban, so no news about when we can drive, but we're going to continue on here at class and get through things. Like I said earlier, good job with the midterm, and continue to take good notes, and I'm sure you're going to do well on the final. So have a good evening, and we'll see you here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Bye.